So, ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode, we are going to talk about another counter-offensive in Kidal. Now, a lot of people have been asking why Kidal has been a very embattled environment, highly contested between the troops and the terrorists. Now, I'm going to tell you something very important about Kidal. The good side of Kidal is that Kidal is actually contested by the EIGS, the FLA, working in collaboration with the JNIM. So they actually have three fronts to put a lot of pressure on the Kidal because Kidal is like a very big logistic environment. So if Mali can take over Kidal, now I'm going to tell you another thing about Kidal. Taking over Kidal, dominating Kidal, means that Mali has been able to completely shut down the Mauritanian border. It means now that what will now be the next point of negotiation will be the Algerian border. So Mali can start progressing from there. So that is why Kidal has always been the tri-border environment has been safe because you have the Nigerian forces, the Malian forces, and the Burkinabe, Rapid Intervention Brigade under the command of Captain Watao. But when you look at the other border, that is Kidal is where you have the terrorists coming in from Mauritania. And that is why this region has always been very highly contested between the troops because you don't know who is coming. You don't know which angle is safe. So the Malian are trying to create a safe corridor, like a buffer zone between, the Malian territory and the Mauritanian border. So that is why the terrorists continue to kind of show some level of resilience. But ladies and gentlemen, based on the result we have on the ground, the terrorists are getting broken down step by step. It's not a battle of attrition. And based on what I can tell you right now, the Malians are surely taking the souls of these terrorists because, before your will is broken, your soul gets to be taken. And I'm telling you, the way the Malians are continuing with this operation, it's going to be so bad there to where the terrorists will wish they never really started this war because they're depleting the numbers. We've been getting some counterintelligence too, but we're not going to get to that now. Now, there's some specific type of equipment that we used. But before we get to the equipment that we used, let's talk about how it all happened, right? So there was reconnaissance information that went to the Malian authority about terrorist presence. They were planning an attack, in my own opinion, based on how they gathered, because there was a man in the middle, explaining what was and what was not. So, but the fastest way to get to these terrorists was to deploy the ground forces, the infantries. So, but on standby was supposed to be the Air Force. So the Malians, while the Air Force was being deployed, the ground forces already launched a preemptive strike to catch the opposition unawares. Taking the terrorists unawares, a firefight ensued. But the problem is the distance was very, the distance was limited. I believe that if they had time to prepare for this assault, the terrorists might have the upper hand because of the type of equipment that they're using, whereas the Malians were using purely AK-47. But ladies and gentlemen, the Malians had the better equipment at the end of the day because from footages, you could see that some of the terrorist guns were jamming. And, this didn't give them enough time to give a counter fire, a counter response. So at the end of the day, a lot of terrorists, a lot of them were killed, as you can see in the picture. Now, I'm going to tell you something that is very important about the picture you're going to see. Now, the bad side of this not showing the images of the dead people is that, according to the belief of these terrorists, these mujahideens, right? When you pose the picture and they're able to identify the person that died, they are going to martyr the person. And they are going to these people literally worship death, and it kind of motivates them. Now you give them a reason to fight. But I'm going to tell you something. Every gun you're seeing right there represents one single man. For each gun represents each man that fell. Now I'm going to tell you another thing. Some of these terrorists could not their guns could not be recovered because while they were trying to escape, the Malian Air Force, launched a decapitation counter-offensive, which actually took a lot of them out. They were burnt, their weapons were burnt, crashed. So there was nothing you could actually pick out of it. So they were left for dead. You know what I mean? Assimi Goita has already given an opportunity for these terrorists to come back to good ways, leave their old ways. The reconciliation accord is still on as we speak. I think is a corridor for the terrorists to give up their arms and surrender their illicit way. But it just seems like some people they never will give up because at the same time we have to understand that whatever the Malians are fighting for right now, the groundwork has been created during the democratic regime. Do you get what I mean? And you can unearth something that has been planted for a long time ago. Like France has been building this weaponizing poverty in these lands for a long time. I can't imagine the second exporter of gold in Africa being so poor before now. You know what I mean? But Assimi Goita is doing a very fantastic job, and this is just another successful counter-offensive. Now, let me say this. The Nigerian armed forces, they are equally very interpreted. And in my own opinion, I think Nigeria has one of the best, fighting forces on the planet. I'm not even going to say within the continent alone. Very strong, very brave. They fight with a lot of bravado and very skilled. Nigerian troops, to be honest with you, some of these guys even fight with jammed guns that have not been repaired in so many months. But you see them manipulating while the fire is going on, and they're still able to counter the enemy fire. So, but one thing I can tell you that makes a very big difference here is that the government of Mali knows the importance of the military. They know the importance of a very, very strong and effective fighting force. Because you can talk about independence and sovereignty if your security, is compromised. So Assimi Goita knows this, being a man that has always fought on the battlefield, that has been through the highest highs and the lowest lows. So he understands, and the Malian armed forces are properly equipped for this combat operations. And this is just another big win for the Malian armed forces. Homeland or death, we will continue to prevail. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back with the Nigerian information very, very soon. We promise that, and we will bring it to you precisely just the way it's going on. It's your boy 72 Andre signing out. Enough said, but before I go, I got to remind you of something. When I say Africans all around the world stand up, I mean if you're a black person all around the world, I don't care where you come from, right? I'm going to tell you, we all carry the same DNA. There is never a time for us to unite better than now. United, we're strong. Divided, we are weak. You know what I mean? And I love your support. I appreciate everyone here. You all are my family. And I want to thank the people that have been supporting me from day one and everybody that got here yesterday. Feel at home right here. You know what I mean? And we have our Telegram channel where we can have our local conversation. We have a pre-conversation about the operations that we are going to talk about before we even talk about it. So you're highly respected here, and we love you, and we want you to stay. Much respect. Salute.